podcast with me, Darren Rees. It's time for another Soccer Aid special. And remember, you can buy tickets for Soccer Aid 2025 at www.socceraid.org.uk/tickets. In this episode, we're going to be speaking to the man who will be commentating on that very special match at Old Trafford for ITV, and that is, of course, no other than the brilliant, the fantastic, the terrific Sam Matterface. As you know, on the show, when we speak to someone in football who works in football, when it's their job, I like to bring you a bit of a taster of what it's like to be them and to do the job which they do. Because one day, you could end up doing the same job as them, and that may well be your dream. So, I kick this episode off by asking Sam, what is it that he loves about his job?
The best thing about my job is that I was never, ever going to be good enough to be able to play football and be involved in huge, massive Premier League matches or Champions League matches or England matches. But I get to be as close to involved in that action as I possibly can be. I am living and breathing every moment of those huge matches I could never even dream of being involved in from a player's point of view, but this is the closest you can get to being to it without obviously putting on a pair of boots. It's absolutely fantastic. Every minute of it is fantastic, and sometimes you're traveling around Europe or you're traveling up and down the country at all hours of the day, but the best thing in the world is sitting in a football stadium watching a football match. Like, it doesn't matter what match it is, what ground it's at, a live football match, there's just nothing better. For me, there's just nothing better than being in the crowd and sort of trying to curate that match for the people that are sitting at home, whether that be TV or radio.
I then asked Sam about some of the big adrenaline rushes he's experienced being a commentator, and I'm sure there have been many. But are there any which really stand out for giving him the biggest buzz or giving him the most dramatic of moments?
Oh, I mean, look, the problem here is that you'll have recency bias, and you always go back to the one that is most fresh in your mind. And I think last season we had the Victor Torp offside goal in the semi-final. Coventry denied a late giant killing against Manchester United down at Wembley. That was dramatic. Amad Diallo's goal at Old Trafford to win the quarter-final against Liverpool was just out of this world. Ollie Watkins scoring in stoppage time at the end of the semi-final of the European Championships. And that's before I go back a couple of years to the World Cup final of 2022, Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi basically slugging it out as to who was going to win the World Cup. And that's just the last 2 years. And I've been commentating for over 25 years, and I've been doing it on TV since 2011. So, I mean, I'm just giving you a handful of moments there. But I also did the Aguero moment when Manchester City won the title in the last few seconds. And going back even further, and you might not remember this, but Portsmouth was trying to survive against relegation. They brought in 3 players from Tottenham in the January transfer window. Harry Redknapp was in charge. He was under pressure. He was probably going to get fired if they lost to Manchester City. They were 1-0 down, and Pedro Mendes scored 2 absolute belters from just outside the penalty area. And those 2 goals actually changed the course of their season. It actually turned their season around. They ended up staying up. And they were dramatic. And the stadium exploded as a result of that. And I remember I was quite raw and still quite young back in the day. I started down in Portsmouth covering Portsmouth Football Club on a regular basis. And I think if I was to sort of go back and think of the most dramatic moment that I was involved in there, then that would have been it. And I think that would always stick in my memory. But as I said, every week there's a dramatic moment now.
I then said to Sam that we have been lucky enough on the Football for Kids podcast to have John Murray on the show. The BBC football correspondent and commentator and all-round legendary man. John mentioned the importance of noise when he came on the show when he was talking about commentating on the radio. He said it was one of the main ingredients which you needed.
Do you know what? It's really interesting that you say that, and John's absolutely right. And John's a good friend of mine, and we spend a lot of time together because we do a lot of the similar games, actually. Home goal. Sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you didn't really give it much when Manchester United scored at Everton the other day." And it's like, well, actually, it's not really much different to what I would have said when Everton scored, but it sounds a lot different because there's no away fans, or the away fans are so far away. A home goal sounds so much more energetic and vibrant, especially on radio, because you rely on the crowd. The crowd is the wave that you have to ride. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's very different. The noise that you get from a crowd makes a massive difference. And I always think that, go back to when we did loads of games, 6 months worth of games, maybe even a year's worth of games. I can't remember. I raised it from my memory of behind closed doors with no supporters in the ground. I mean, it was just not the same sport.
I then told Sam about another thing which John Murray told us, which was about blunders when it came to commentating. He had hot coffee spilt all over his lap, and it was a cold day, and eventually that hot coffee went really cold, and we all love a blunder, don't we? I said to Sam, you must have had some, hadn't you?
Happened to me at Vicarage Road, exactly the same. I was doing a game, Portsmouth versus Watford. It was in the old condemned stand at Vicarage Road before they knocked it down. I had a cup of coffee and it was trying to balance all my equipment, and I knocked it all over and it went right down my front. I looked like I wet myself. It was in the middle of the game, so I had that. I did a commentary when I was really young. So I was doing commentary for Wimbledon Football Club on their in-house TV channel, and they scored a goal right at the end of a match. It was an absolutely outstanding goal. I can't even remember who scored it now. It was one to win the game late on. And I remember going so mad that the table that I had in front of me, I kicked up in the air, and everything that was on the table went up in the air and went onto the top of all of the supporters in front of me and knocked all the equipment down because I got far too excited. And actually, the other day, I was at Newcastle, and Newcastle's press box is really tight. It's in the first sort of 4 or 5 rows of the lower part of the main stand. And it is quite, you're sort of very hemmed in there. And I put my cup of coffee on top of the sort of visor that goes over the desk, and then got up, turned around, knocked it over with my backpack, and it just was about to go all over the poor geezer in front. It was boiling hot as well, and he wasn't unsuspecting, and I just caught it just in time, and I thought, ninja reactions, fantastic. But then it rained the same day, and I got absolutely soaked because there's no roof there, and I didn't bring a coat, and you're sitting there trying to sort of mop up all the water on top of your laptops and stuff like that. So yeah, loads of moments like that, blunders. I mean, God, we all make blunders. I mean, the most famous idiot comment that I made probably came when I was doing a Aston Villa Newcastle game. It was one of the worst matches I've ever seen. I think my brain was slowly dropping off, and I'd said that Andreas Weimer had hit a shot with the power of, or with it was so weak that it was like a glass of orange squash with 1 part orange squash and 52 parts water, which is just the most ridiculous and most weird thing to say. But it went viral. And when I first did Soccer Aid in 2014, I was being introduced to everyone, and the guy who runs it, Matt, said to me, he said, come and have a word with Robbie. Robbie Williams is here. Robbie, this is Sam Matterface. And Robbie went, the orange squash guy.
And that's what you'll forever be known.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to get a T-shirt that says the orange squash guy.
Poor old Sam, the orange squash guy. After that, we got on to the questions around Soccer Aid, and I asked him about the brilliant lines that he uses in his commentary. Last year, he used one which has been recited many a time, and that was when Stephen Bartlett scored a goal. And he said, stick that in your diary of a CEO. And the reason he said it is because Stephen Bartlett is known for a few different things, but mainly it's to do with his podcast, which is an adults podcast called The Diary of a CEO. I said to Sam, did he think about that on the spot, or was it a scripted line? How does he go about coming up with these crackers?
No, that wasn't scripted. I mean, many of the things that we do come out with, obviously, we thought about beforehand. But the ones that stick in the mind, they're never scripted. They're the ones that happen just at that moment. I said something at the end of a really terrible England game in the summer, which again, it sort of caught on a little bit, but again, it wasn't written down. It just came to me in that moment, and I think, look, you do plan. Obviously, you plan different things, and you plan what you're going to talk about when, and you do a lot of research. But actually, I sort of see it like you're doing an exam every day. So if you're doing a football match, it's like an exam. So you make loads of notes, you cram loads of bits and pieces, you have an idea of what you want to say if this happens, and you mentally rehearse it. But when the moment comes, there isn't really that much time to sort of look down and find that killer thing that you thought you were going to say. I mean, imagine, the Stephen Bartlett moment, with all due respect, the thing that everybody knows him for is the diary of a CEO, right? So it just came into my head at that moment. I mean, obviously when I'm doing my research, I'll have like little bits about each player and what they've done and whatever, but you tend to go with the thing that you know the most. And yeah, that Stephen had a brilliant story because, he sort of really went for it the year before and sort of hired a personal trainer or a personal coach and really tried to get himself ready for Soccer Aid, and then got an injury just beforehand, so he couldn't take part. Then the year later, obviously, he plays at Stamford Bridge and scores that goal, and that, you could tell that meant a lot to him because he'd worked so hard to get to that point, because for him it was his cup final. So I'm pleased he had his moment, and I'm pleased that he was the one who put it out there, wasn't he? He put it on his Instagram. I didn't really think anything of it at the time because most of the stuff I say is complete nonsense.
I then asked Sam about how he preps for a match like Soccer Aid. Surely it's not like prepping for the Manchester derby, is it?
It's not different. I prepare exactly the same for Soccer Aid as I do for Plymouth versus Liverpool, as I do for Barnet versus Exeter or whoever. Whatever the game is, whatever the level, I'll prepare exactly the same way, because every match has to be given its importance. And yeah, it's different in terms of the people that are involved, but actually, it's not different in the way you do it. I mean, the style might be slightly different. We're more tongue-in-cheek, obviously, with Soccer Aid. We have a bit more fun. There's a bit more room to sort of have a laugh and a joke. And it is more an entertainment vibe about it. But the football is still really important. And also, the nuggets. We have statisticians that work on Soccer Aid I'll spend time with them. We'll go through and work out, how many goals someone's got or how many appearances they've had in Soccer Aid. I'll go through and work out silly things like the time between the last goals last time and what that means this time, how many second half goals there's been. All that kind of stuff is exactly the same as I would do for a normal Premier League match or a Champions League match or an England match. But the difference is I get to spend a bit more time with the players. So those nuggets that you talk about, a lot of that comes from the fact that I'll spend a couple of days at training beforehand, and I'll go and have breakfast with them and chat to them and talk to them about what they've been doing, or talk to them about how they've been preparing for the game, or I might just happen to be around when something happens, which I'll then write down, and I'll just keep a note of it. So a lot of the preparation is actually going to the training sessions and being a part of the sort of the build up to it as well, because you pick up little bits and pieces there.
Lastly, I asked Sam to give you lot some advice in case you wanted to follow in his footsteps and become a football commentator yourself.
I think you should always have a dream of what you want to do, and you should always work towards it and believe that you can do it, because you can. And if you work hard enough and you want it bad enough and you're prepared to give up everything else to do it, then you will get there. You will get there. I've been doing football commentary since I think the first time I ever attempted it was 1996. So that's nearly 30 years. I've been working in radio since 1992. I was 14 when I first started, hanging around radio stations, knocking on door, asking to do stuff. And for the first year and a half that I was working on radio, I did nothing apart from sit there and watch everybody else and learn from what they did. And it takes time. These things take time. I say this all the time to my kids. My kids got dreams of what they want to do. And I always say to them, no one's going to turn up tomorrow and give you your dream job. You've got to go out and make it happen. And whether that is playing football, whether that's writing about football, whether that's making videos about football, commentating on football, whatever it is, if you want to do it, you've got to try and make it happen, and you've got to put all your energies into it. And good luck, because you can. If you really believe that that's what you should be doing, then make it happen. You go out and make it happen and enjoy it. Because actually, do you know what? Even if you don't get to the level that you dreamed of, even if you don't get to the level that you hope to get to, everything you do in your chosen field should be an enjoyment. Because if you enjoy what you do, then it's hardly like working. I mean, I've worked at every level of the game, and I loved every minute of every single one of the matches that I've done. You know, it's a privilege to be involved in football. Football is great. I love football, so I want to be involved in it. And the fact that I get to go to football every other day is just it's fantastic. It's fantastic, and I'll never take it for granted.
Well, there you go. What a job Sam Matterface has. Travelling around the world, watching the best teams and players, and watching and talking about something that you genuinely love. Sam has had a wonderful career, and there's no reason why you couldn't do what he's done. Because if you work hard and you do all the right things and you never ever give up, you will achieve a lot. Remember, grab your tickets at www.socceraid.org.uk/tickets and go and experience it. It will not only be a fantastic match, but a brilliant thing to be a part of. So remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about Football for Kids. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.